Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into some seriously profound source material based on the insights of Craig Hamilton Parker. It's essentially a brilliant, multi-layered thought experiment. I mean, imagine a giant dinner party where some of history's greatest spiritual and psychological minds, people like Carl Jung, Mother Teresa, and Socrates, are all sitting around a table, analyzing the current state of our world. We'll be unpacking their takes on historical exhaustion, spiritual renewal, and the absolute core of human consciousness. Grab a notebook, because we're jumping right in.
Look, turn on the news for 5 minutes and it is so easy to just feel exhausted, right? We all feel it. The source material doesn't sugarcoat this at all. It completely acknowledges the fear, the intense division, and the corruption going on out there. But, and here's the real game changer, it frames this current chaos not as humanity being left behind, but as a hidden truth finally forcing its way into the light. It poses a massive question. What if all this worldly shaking isn't a random disaster, but a really painful, yet incredibly meaningful transition?
Section 1. Collapse or purification.
So, how exactly do we tell the difference? When everything around us feels totally morally bankrupt and exhausted, are we just watching society collapse, or are we going through a massive purification process? Instead of just throwing our hands up in despair, which is super tempting, I know, we really need to stop and ask, what is actually being exposed by all this unrest?
Well, we can actually look at this through two really distinct lenses. First, there's the spiritual view from Paramahansa Yogananda. He suggests that a collapse happens when we simply panic and cling to the storm itself. But purification? That happens when we actively remember the deep, divine current that's still flowing right underneath all those crashing waves. Then you flip over to the psychological perspective from the legendary Carl Jung. He argues that humanity is simply facing its collective shadow, all those repressed, denied parts of our psyche that we've been running from. It hurts to look at, sure, but both perspectives actually agree on one huge thing. The darkness isn't just random destruction. It is a revelation of what absolutely must be healed.
And this realization completely redefines a word we throw around all the time: hope. Taking inspiration from the writer and statesman Václav Havel, hope is absolutely not just crossing your fingers and having blind optimism, that things will magically fix themselves. Nope, it's a rock-solid fidelity to the truth, even when the outcome looks bleak. Havel uses this incredible, grounded example of a simple shopkeeper who just outright refuses to put a fake propagandist sign in his window. That's it, just one tiny refusal to live inside a lie. But that right there, that is where purification actually starts. Hope is an action, guys, not just a fuzzy feeling.
Moving on to Section 2. Divinity, above or within.
If we're looking for a golden era, where exactly should we be looking? The text re-examines the whole concept of prayer through the imagined perspectives of Jesus and the poet Rumi, and it totally flips the script. Prayer isn't framed as begging some distant, angry ruler in the sky to swoop down and fix our lives. Instead, it's about opening your heart and actively listening for mercy. It's the profound realization that the divine might actually be nearer to us than our own breath. It shifts the entire power dynamic. You go from passive begging to active internal listening. It's pretty wild to think about.
Which brings us to Section 3, avoiding false spiritual ego.
Okay, so looking inward sounds great, but it comes with its own massive risks, right? If we're listening to a voice inside us, how do we know we aren't just letting our own egos run wild? The mystic Teresa of Avila and the writer C.S. Lewis both give some really sharp warnings here. They point out that true inner guidance actually humbles you. It makes you realize how small you are and quietly points you towards serving others. False guidance, on the other hand, it inflates your ego. It demands an audience. It takes a sacred, quiet experience and turns into a flashy status symbol. They argue you literally have to test the fruits of your inner voice. Is it making you kinder, or is it just making you proud and demanding?
Socrates actually hit the nail on the head regarding this trap. He says, the true teacher does not replace the student's soul, he awakens it. He's basically warning us against false gurus who try to make you dependent on them. A true guide doesn't want you permanently kneeling at their feet for answers. They want you free, independent, and completely capable of trusting your own discernment.
And I love this. We see this exact same philosophy echoed by the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. He says, a true master does not waste movement. Grandiosity is extra movement. Humility is correct form. He takes the physical discipline of martial arts and maps it perfectly onto spiritual conduct. True guidance is clean and efficient under pressure. If someone is constantly showing off how enlightened or holy they are, that's extra movement. That is pure ego.
All right, Section 4, do we need prophets?
If true guidance is an inside job and external gurus can be a massive trap, we kind of have to deconstruct the whole myth of a savior. Does a promised golden age mean one single avatar is going to drop out of the sky and fix it all? The conclusion from figures like Satya Sai Baba and Maitreya is incredibly grounding. They tell us that the golden age isn't a date on a calendar. It is love practiced, period. If a divine teacher did show up, they wouldn't be here to perform parlor tricks for a massive crowd. Their whole purpose would simply be to wake up millions of ordinary hearts so we can all finally take responsibility for our own world.
Finally, Section 5, Living the Golden Age Now.
So how do we actually pull all this lofty philosophy down to earth and live it today? It starts almost shockingly simply with Mother Teresa's wisdom. The golden age begins in the home. Do small things with great love. You know, it is so easy to say we love humanity in the abstract, but it is incredibly tough to love the annoying person sitting right across from you at the dinner table. The future doesn't start in some grand parliament building. It starts right in your kitchen, when you actively choose to listen or smile instead of just walking away.
The text pulls from Thich Nhat Hanh, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela to show us how totally ordinary moments actually become public resistance. Step 1, wash a cup with presence. Literally, peace begins in the absolute smallest mindful actions. Step 2, speak truth over convenience. Truth is the only thing that exposes the lies corrupt systems are built on. And step 3, refuse to pass on pain. This means actively choosing discipline over.
The golden age is not something we passively wait around for. It begins the literal second fear stops calling the shots in our lives. It starts when we choose truth over what's comfortable, when we use simple kindness as a form of rebellion, when our spiritual insights actually make us humble instead of arrogant. And maybe most importantly, it begins the moment humanity collectively stops waiting for a magical rescue ship and just takes responsibility.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty heavy thought. Are we becoming ready? The source material makes one thing absolutely crystal clear. A brand new, better age literally cannot be built by hearts that are still holding on to the old one. If a new era of divinity is pushing its way through the darkness, it requires our active, conscious participation right now, in the very next conversation you have. So the question is, are you ready to be part of the solution today? Think on that. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.